everyone, Malacite here, bringing you another Challenge of Elders guide for week 7. Apologies for the last couple of weeks. Real life happened, and well, I just wasn't able to put out the videos or the guides, so I'm very sorry about that. But I'm right back on track for this week. So we have airborne, so more damage done in the air. Grenadier, or grenade kill bonus, so there's more points for grenade kills, and exposure, the most annoying perk of all. So your shields do not regen. Well, you have greatly increased shields, but they actually do replenish. It's just painfully slow, and you're gonna get creamed in a fight. Anyway, so we're gonna start off with the hunters. In order of effectiveness, the Blade Dancer is by far #1 for this. Gunslinger and Night Stalker are not bad either. I would actually prefer Gunslinger over Night Stalker, but Blade Dancer is the king for this, and the reason being is this little boy, bad boy, the Lucky Raspberry. So normally the Arc Bolt grenade hits around 3 enemies tops, but with the perk on this thing, you can hit upwards of 7 or 8. And on top of that, it has a nice little bonus to arc armor, which gives you a little more survivability. And you spawn with grenades if you're killed, so if your teammates get you back up, you instantly get your grenade back. Another good option too, at least if you're running Blade Dancer, is to run the Tarantella, so that you get your grenades back even quicker along with your super, although that doesn't really matter too much. You mainly want it for the grenade recharge. If you don't have either of those, the Bones of Owl are also really great for giving you more airtime, so that you can stay in the air longer and give you a better window of opportunity to do damage with your grenades. So yes, we run the Arc Bolt here. Don't run Blink, just because it'll make it too awkward. You're better off running either High Jump or Better Control, just to give you more time in the air to deal increased damage. And as for the other perks, it's literally all pretty much personal preference here. I happen to like Hungering Blade and Fast Twitch, just so like for those little emergency situations, or if I want to pop Arc Blade, I'll still work. Not as much as you would normally, obviously, because of the exposure, but you will still heal a little bit. Lately, I've been really enjoying using Fleet-footed again, just because the extra speed, zipping around, especially if you're just going to be flying around the map, hucking grenades. This can really save your bacon. But the quick draw is not bad either, to quickly swap between weapons. I wouldn't really bother with Shadowjack. There's not much point in going to invisible in here, even if you're running solo, unless you're desperately hurting. And then, as for weapons, again, I've got Red Death on for the healing and for the high caliber rounds, so it just makes managing the crowds much more easier. Other weapons too to consider are anything with either the Grenadier or Army of One perk, so that your kills will get you your grenades quicker, so you can start earning more points, and anything with Icarus for more accuracy in the air. Speaking of which, if you happen to have the Celestial Nighthawk, even though it's not stated anywhere in here, it has been discovered that it has an intrinsic perk to it where you get the airborne ability for all your weapons. Alright, so moving on to the Gunslinger. You're going to want to run the Incendiary Grenade. It's because it'll do the most damage. The Trip Mine is too awkward. The Swarm Grenade will hardly do anything. Same story here. Rest of the perks, personal choice here. The main thing is the grenades. Actually, sorry. The Scavenger perk is also worth considering, because every time you pick up ammo, it will recharge your grenade quicker. And then with the Night Stalker, the main thing here is just to make sure that you have lockdown on, and I would go with either Vortex or the Void Wall grenade. The Void Wall is my personal preference, just because it covers a much wider area. As for the only other thing to consider here too is with your super, the Bloodbound has much less range, but it will make it easier to chain kills together with your grenades, and I believe if the shared damage is based on the source used, not the tether itself. Meaning, like, if you kill an enemy with a grenade and then the splash damage gets shared to other targets, it'll count as additional grenade kills. Alright, and with that said, let's move on to the Warlocks. Alright, so for the Warlocks, the Sunsinger is, in my opinion, the best option by far, especially for group play, but it's worth noting that all three of them are equally viable. They're all very strong in their own way. You cannot go wrong, so it's personal preference here. If you are going to opt for the Sunsinger, though, I strongly recommend using the Bad Juju so you can get your super up as much as possible, and then equipping the Heart of the Praxic Fire so that your grenades will just come back pretty much instantly. It goes without saying that you need ideally high discipline and intellect so that you can maximize both your grenades and your super use. So where this all really comes together, though, is with the Song of Flame ability. So this, in tandem with the Heart of the Praxic Fire, will basically enable your entire team to just spam your grenades non-stop. It's insane. Radiant Skin is also a good choice, particularly if you're running solo. Because of exposure, it'll give you just a little extra toughness, but the Song of Flame is by far the most useful perk here. Unless you're running like hardcore solo and having a rough time, I would stay away from Fireborn, just because it doesn't really help and it actually reduces the duration of Radiance now, which is not good. Because again, the key thing to remember here too, unlike the other two Warlock supers, Radiance doesn't actually cause super kills. You simply generate orbs from all the kills you do. You do cause through other means, and your grenades and your ability and your melee do jacked up damage as well. Speaking of which, for grenade choice, I prefer the fusion grenade just because it is the highest single target damage. And quite often, particularly against the weaker enemies like thralls and such, the splash damage from the initial impact will kill anything else around it as well. But the Firebolt grenade is also a pretty good choice. It'll spike for more AOE right off the bat, and even the solar grenade is pretty useful here, particularly if you choose to use the Sunbreakers to make them last longer. And it's especially deadly if you then combo that with Angel of Light. So what you'll do is, like for instance, when you want to burn the boss down, just jump up in the air, throw down the solar grenade, jump in the air, and start shooting them while airborne for absolutely stupid amounts of damage. And so for perks, you're obviously going to want Radiant Will on for longer duration. And I would go with the Flame Shield for the melee just because the extra survivability is nice. I generally prefer Solar Wind lately just for the extra recovery, but exposure pretty much kicks that in the balls, so don't bother. With the Voidwalker, you're going to want to run the Scatter Grenade, Lifesteal, Annihilate, although the Hunger is also worth considering, but because you really want to get the kills more than anything, so Annihilate's going to help with that. And then you're going to want to equip Embrace the Voids, which will heal you anyway from your grenade kills and give your grenades right back. I wouldn't bother with Bloom because for some reason it's glitched in the Prison of Elders. It works properly with Nova Bomb, extending into additional super kills, but for some reason with grenade, if you kill something with a grenade and then the exploding enemy kills another enemy, it counts it as a regular kill, so you're not going to get bonus points. And then you're going to want to combo that with the Nothing Manacle, so you get another grenade and your scatter grenades track, making them much more deadly. Okay, and then lastly we have the Stormcaller, which you're going to want to run the Storm Grenade just for the largest area of effect possible. Superconductor, if in the event that you want to actually use your super. Same deal with Transcendence, because actually it's worth noting, Transcendence will heal you by roughly half your health, I believe, with Exposure on, which is a pretty damn big chunk. It's not super reliable, and you're not going to want to use it too often, because you're probably going to want to combo that build with the Talaylock for more damage and grenade recharge, and the Alchemist Raiment, which with mainly for the special perk here. So when your super is full, orbs will instantly charge both your melee and your grenade. So you're not really going to be using Storm Trance all that much. This is mainly for an emergency button. For the melee, again, if you should choose to use it, because again, I'd rather hold it in reserve. Just you know, for emergencies, for transcendence, I would strongly recommend Rising Storm just because it gives you more super and grenade energy. The real decision maker here for this build is Arc Web or Perpetual Charge. Perpetual Charge will allow you to cycle your melee and your grenades constantly, which is really helpful. However, I prefer Arc Web because you can just throw the grenade and then it'll damage everything, and then it'll create additional lightning, which I believe because the damage source comes from your grenade initially, even though this is an ability, it counts it as a grenade kill. So you're just going to be racking up huge points with this combination. Okay, and I don't believe there's anything else really worth. Nope, that'll do it for the Warlocks, so let's get on to the Titans. Alright, last but not least we have Titans. The strongest of which for this week is by far the Sunbreaker. The Striker is another good choice. Defender is more than likely the weakest here, just largely because despite all the normally useful utility, it doesn't have anything that really helps with grenades, and the only AoE grenade it actually has is the suppressor grenade. So I would honestly shy away from it unless you really like playing Defender. Then by all means go nuts. But if you want to have the easiest time racking up points, you're going to go with the Sunbreaker. And so the key ability here is the Simmering Flames, which means you're not going to be using your hammers at all. Because with this bad boy active in max discipline, you get your grenades back roughly every 7 or 8 seconds, which is pretty crazy. And then so you want to combo that with Fleet Fire, just because these other two perks are useless. So just might as well give yourself a little bit of extra agility. Melee can be whatever you like. I prefer Stoke the Forge just because I like having my melee back quickly. Super abilities, as I said, do not matter. And for grenades, all three of these grenades are good. I happen to like the Thermite grenade just because you can throw it down and use it to zone out enemies, as well as when you're in the air using the Imperium Bellicose that I have on here. It's similar to the Solar Grenade for the Sunsingers. It just keeps doing damage while you're in the air hitting the enemy. The other exotic I would strongly recommend if you don't have or don't like the Imperium Bellicose to abuse airborne would be the Armamentarium, just for the extra grenades. But really the Imperium Bellicose or even just Ruin Wings, just because who doesn't like more heavy ammo. But the Bellicose will give you the most damage output for taking down the bosses or just regular enemies in general, if your grenades are down. Exotics don't matter too much here. Black Spindle is actually a really deadly combination with the Bellicose. I happen to be using the Sleeper Simulant here just because it has the most burst damage. So you can just jump up, take aim with it real quick, and then just let her rip for huge damage. With the Striker, I would strongly recommend the Flashbang Grenade just because it has the most base damage out of all the grenades. And anything you don't kill will be blinded, and which will make your life and your friends' lives a hell of a lot easier since exposure's on. The Pulse Grenade I would stay away from, even though it is kind of nice because you don't have to stick it on the wall like the Lightning Grenade. The damage and the area of effect on it are pretty weak. The Lightning Grenade does quite a bit of DPS, particularly with Aftershocks turned on. The only problem is, generally in PoE it tends to be tricky finding good spots to place it. It's not nearly... In general, the Lightning Grenade doesn't perform as well, I find, as it does in PvE as it does in Crucible. And so for those reasons, I would recommend the Flashbang. I've got Headstrong on just because I like running around quicker, but definitely Transfusion is worth considering. Melee abilities, I would go with Overload just because, particularly if you're going to use Transfusion, but can't go wrong here. Same with the super perks. The only other real point of consideration here would be the Shoulder Charge if you're planning to use the Peregrine Greaves, because Airborne is on, so you'll jump up and do pretty big damage. Although I wouldn't recommend it. That's really something that's more ideal to do when Brawler is active, or Juggernaut. just because Juggernaut will give you an extra shield when running around, with which can really help because of the exposure. I've got Unstoppable on just because that's what I usually run with, and I like having maximum armor. If you are going to run Defender, yeah, like I said, I advise against this, but probably run with Blessings of Light, just because you're going for grenade kills, which means weapons won't really help with that. Armor of Light is actually worth considering, particularly with the Helm of Saint 14, just because exposure's on, and it's nice to give your teammates a little bit of shelter to hide in. Force Barrier can also be actually pretty handy in this instance, particularly with Relentless and Unbreakable. It's just, really, it's just more layers of survivability. Iron Harvest is always a good choice too. Heavy kills get you more orbs for your teammates, but again, you'll see much better performance in terms of points wise by running Sunbreaker or Striker. And I believe that will be it for this week. So good luck in the prison, guys. Have fun. I'll see you next week.